Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I thought we would do something pretty fun and round up some of my absolute favorite tips and tricks that I've learned through my endless scrolling on TikTok. I feel like I'm always seeing new and cool techniques, and some of them seem really gimmicky, and then some of them seem really helpful. I will link all the creators below where I got these tips. Some of these are game-changing, at least for me. So I really hope that you guys take something from this video, and all of my hours spent on TikTok can be valuable. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into the most helpful tips and tricks I've learned on TikTok. Tip number one is for when you're dealing with lots of like blemishes or discoloration and you don't want to go in with a super heavy base product. I will link all the creators that I learned these tips from in the comments below. I believe this one was from Michaela. I don't know if it's gonna work on this significant blemish we have here. Reminder never to pick your face is a moment of weakness. Basically what you wanna do is put some concealer on the back of your hand. I'm not overly cautious when it comes to introducing germs to my concealers, putting it under my eyes and things like that. But I think when you're going in on blemishes particularly, you wanna make sure that you use a brush and you don't go just straight in with the wand. So anywhere where there's like a little bit of discoloration or blemishes that you want to cover up, for me there's like acne scars, little spots that just need some extra help. Again, I don't think it's gonna work on this one, but we will see. I really like this one by Catrice for this purpose. This is the True Skin because it dries down pretty matte. So rather than going in with your foundation and then kind of spot concealing, the idea here is to go in with your spot concealing, then do your foundation once your concealer is totally dry. And that way the spot concealing you have to do on top of your foundation is very minimal and it's a lot more well hidden by the foundation. As much as we try and match our foundation and concealer absolutely perfectly, it's hard to do. So by doing it this way, you don't have to worry so much about it being a perfect match because the foundation is going to be layered over the top of the concealer rather than vice versa. So give this a solid amount of time to set. All right, while I was waiting, I went ahead and just mixed these two matte colors right here from the Send Nudes palette. This is the ColourPop Target collaboration palette, and just put those all over my eyes and extended it out quite a bit because I'm gonna clean that up with concealer and I wanna have that like elongated eye shape today. Now that this has been drying for a solid 5 minutes, I'm gonna go in with my Purito BB Cream. And the trick with this concealer is to make sure that you use a sponge. You wanna use a beauty sponge and gently just tap over anywhere where you have that concealer so you're not disturbing it and you're letting it stay put. You don't want to be using rubbing motions or pulling motions, which is why I recommend using a sponge over a brush. And I'm just very gently tapping. Another tip that I learned is about foundation, and I'm definitely guilty of doing this. Basically, instead of putting foundation like a little bit here, and here, and then going in and blending it everywhere, it's to work in smaller sections. So just work right here on your cheek. Make sure you get this all nice and blended out and then start on the next section. And the reason to do that is because foundations are made to set down. They're not made to stay totally wet, at least most foundations. So as soon as it hits your skin, it's starting that setting down process. So as soon as you put it on your skin is the most blendable the foundation is going to be. So again, particularly with matte foundations, working in a small section and then moving on to the next and the next is going to give you the best result, rather than if I had already put it over here and while I blended out this whole side, it was setting down and now I'm trying to like yank it into place. I'm going to take some fresh foundation out of the tube and now start on this section when the foundation is at its most blendable. Again, using very gentle tapping motions to not disturb the concealing we did underneath. I'm gonna do a little bit of concealer and then I'll be back with the next tip. I'm using the CoverGirl Simply Ageless. Okay, now that I've got my foundation and my concealer on, we're gonna move on to maybe my favorite tip of the whole video. This was game changing for me. So you guys know how I feel about baking under the eyes post the age of like 20. I feel like it's really not flattering. However, anytime I have used a lot of loose powder underneath my eyes, my makeup lasts a lot better because the loose powder really adheres to your skin. It applies a lot more product. So when I saw this tip on TikTok, I was like, I have to try it, and I did, and it made a huge difference. So when you need your makeup to last for a very long time, rather than going straight in with a loose powder, try this instead. So first you're gonna go in with a pressed powder. This is the No. 7 pressed powder that I always rave about. You're just gonna take a small amount on a nice fluffy brush and gently set the under eye area or anywhere where you want to use the pressed powder. And you can see that this is still pretty luminous. It's not fully set, but it's a lot less wet than this side of my face. So you're just kind of taking a little bit of that wetness away. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now, if you don't have problems with getting oily, if you don't have problems with your makeup in this area, and you have really dry skin, you have really mature skin, I would say stop here. Just use a fluffy brush with a little bit of pressed powder. That's all you're gonna need to keep your concealer in place if that's your skin type. But if you have trouble with your makeup staying put, maybe you get really shiny in this T-zone area, I feel like this is really gonna help. So just, again, a small amount on your brush, tap, tap, tap. And now take your powder puff and your loose powder of choice. I'm gonna use the Maybelline Fit Me, and put a small amount on your puff. And then instead of taking the amount that's on your puff and going straight in under your eyes, tap it off on the back of your hand to get some of that powder off. Now, on top of where you already put that pressed powder, you're gonna push this into the skin. This is gonna give you that airbrushed look. It's gonna make your makeup last for a very long time because you're really pushing that finely milled powder into your makeup, but it's not going straight onto a wet concealer or wet foundation. And I personally found that putting it straight onto a wet foundation or concealer made the concealer and foundation grab onto so much more product. Then when I gently set it with a pressed powder, it's still slightly dewy, so there's enough dampness for my skin to really pick up the rest of the loose powder, but it's not nearly as much. Now I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, and you can see the difference between the two sides. This is the one that has the loose powder. You can see it's mattified it, it's really filled in my pore, and then on this side, there's still some of that luminosity. Again, this depends on your skin type, whether or not this will work for you. This is just for people that have been wanting to do this pressed powder trick, but found that it was always applying too much. And no matter what, I always go back through and dust off the excess. Goal here is to get that airbrushed longevity from the loose powder with as little amount of that loose powder as possible so as not to look cakey. Okay, the next tip is finding your highlighter shade. So I have a bunch of different highlighters here, and I'm gonna swatch them on my hand. Okay, so this first one is the Milani Highlighter Duo in Power Up. So I'm gonna put that on the back of my hand. Next one is the Essence highlighter in the shade Staggering. Swatch that right next to it. Then I'm gonna do the Master Chrome highlighter in the shade Molten Gold. So you can see when the light is hitting all of them, they look beautiful. But to find the perfect shade for you, you wanna find the one that disappears when the light is not hitting it. So you can see these two look like almost bronzers on my skin when the light is not hitting them. So again, they all look like beautiful highlighters when the light's hitting them. Take the light away, not so much. So with highlighter, you want it to really reflect on your cheek when the light's hitting them, but you don't want it to look like you are wearing the wrong color bronzer on the top of your cheek when the light's not hitting it. I found that to be a really helpful trick for making sure that you're picking a highlighter that's gonna work for your skin tone. I'm just gonna place a little bit of that right on the tops of my cheeks and then in my inner corners. All right, last but not least, and I don't know how much I believe this one, but I just thought it was really cool. So I saw a trick that said, the perfect lipstick shade for you is the color that your finger turns when you squeeze it a little bit. Like that's your perfect lipstick color. So the color I found that's closest to that in my collection is this one by Flower Beauty. Not exact, but a pretty close match with that shade. And you have to be careful not to do it for too long because then it just starts to look blue. But I'd be curious to know if like your everyday lipstick is a close match with the color that your finger turns when you press on it. That is everything. Those are some of the most helpful tips I've learned through all of my endless scrolling on TikTok. So I thought I'd share them with you guys in case you found them to be helpful too. Let me know what your favorite makeup tips that you've gotten off of TikTok are. Maybe I'll do a compilation of all of your best tips in the next video, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you in my next one.